Good evening and welcome to Postscripts. It's our weekly look at news and politics with our newspaper partners at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Joining me in studio as always is Christopher Ave, national and political editor at the Post. Good to see you.
Good to see you,
Been quite a few years since we've done the show together. About 5 years, I believe. So great to be back together. Okay, we have a lot to get through today as we approach the Republican National Convention. We begin with Donald Trump. It's been said a million times that we've never seen a campaign like this, right? Now we've almost made it to the conventions. They start next week. So, Christopher, right off the bat here, what are you anticipating next week as the Republicans open up their convention?
Well, that's the question, isn't it, John? I mean, the thing about this convention is I think maybe the least amount of information ahead of time about it. It was till the end of last week before we even started to get hints as to who was going to speak. You know, he had sort of promised there'd be a lot of razzmatazz, there'd be Hollywood, there'd be entertainment. He said, I don't want a boring convention. And then the list came out at the end of the week, and it seemed as if we had some lower level officials, we have some business leaders, but we don't really, and there's an athlete or two, but we don't really have those high level, you know, former president type leaders that I think Americans are accustomed to seeing at these conventions.
But you do have at least 4 Trump names on the speaker's list. I didn't see that. 4 Trumps are speaking.
A lot of Trumps.
I think Tim Tebow is, I also heard, going to be
Sports
speaking
star.
there. So
He's
they try and
listed.
bring in some people like that.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting because typically in a convention setting, you have all these former candidates who ran against him, whatever it was, 16 at one point, right? Who all come to speak and endorse him. We know that's probably not going to happen. Then you have the former presidents coming to say, this is my guy. You're not going to have this year, so the whole thing of rallying around the candidate, I don't think is going to happen this year.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There are a couple of former opponents in the party that are going to speak. Ted Cruz, most notably, he is going to speak, but you have no former presidents that I've seen, and you're exactly right. We don't have that kind of, you know, recognizable face that, oh yeah, him or her, you know, I like her. You know, I think the thing that about the primary season, it drug on so long that Americans actually kind of got to know those dozen or so people that you're talking about, and not many of them will be at this convention. On the other hand, as you said, Donald Trump is going to have family members. He's going to have his wife, he's going to have a son, he's going to have a daughter, all speak at different times. So America will get a chance to sort of see Trump through their lens as a family person. I think they're hoping that this will shed some light on a side of Donald Trump that maybe Americans don't know. You know, we know about the reality TV, we know about you're fired, you know, we know all that sort of stuff, and now we know about the angry speeches, but I think they're going to try to showcase Trump as a family guy.
It should be interesting, too, because a lot of times in these conventions, it's not supposed to be about one person, although it is, right? So you have this list of speakers, including some people who said they will never endorse Donald Trump.
That's right, yes.
Am I the only one really looking forward to seeing what they have to say if they get on board with the party here or if they go rogue?
Yeah, it really does put some of those Republicans in a very tough spot, and we've said this through on this show through the primary season, is that, you know, once you say that Trump is not qualified to be president or that he doesn't have the temperament to be president and you're a Republican, then when Trump is at the top of the ticket and perhaps you're running for something else on that same ticket, what do? That's a question that Republicans around the country are grappling with. Our own Senator Roy Blunt has grappled with that a little bit. You know, he's come out and said, I support the nominee, but with no real enthusiasm. I mean, you haven't heard Roy Blunt singing Trump's praises extensively. I think what most Republicans do, most Republicans who don't support Trump vociferously, they'll say, I support the nominee, but then the very next breath, they'll start talking about Hillary Clinton and how he's better than her.
Yeah. All right. Poll numbers here. Neither of the 2 big party candidates polling very well. We've seen some new numbers out there. They have them splitting around 40% in poll numbers right now. Okay, when you're talking both at 40%, leaves a lot of room for a third party here. What stands out to you when neither seems to be breaking through? And some of them have them in the low 30s each. Yeah. So each candidate 30%. Heading into the conventions. Normally you're getting into the upper 40s, maybe 50% for at least one.
Couple of thoughts here. One, the negatives of both candidates are at historic highs. You know, it's often been said in the last couple of weeks, and it's true. Hillary Clinton would be the least popular candidate to run in modern times if it were not for Donald Trump, who's even less popular, whose negatives, that is, are even higher than Hillary Clinton's. So you have 2 flawed candidates, at least in the view of the electorate. So you've got that. But what you also have, I think, is an opportunity for these 2 candidates to really make their case in the conventions. In a way, this increases the importance of the conventions. This is their shot to, so all those people that are sort of undecided or at least unenthused about either candidate, this is their chance to really catch their ears and really make that case.
Okay, we all know that there are 3 states that everybody's focused on. We're talking Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. This week, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Marist polls showed that Trump is getting 0% support among African Americans in Pennsylvania for sure. When you're at 0% with some minority groups, and you have to win those states, right? You got to win you got to win those 3 states. That's, well, on the upside, he would spin it as, hey, I got a lot of ground I can gain here, but that's a problem. He's got to start winning over some minorities if he wants to win these states.
I think there's no question. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but I don't believe you can get below 0. I think that.
See, there's his spin. That'll be his spin. I have nowhere but up in this.
Well, that's the optimistic way of looking at it. But you're exactly right. In this day and age, the white percentage of the voting electorate is going to go down. It has already gone down. In fact, minorities will make up at some point in the future the majority of voters. Not yet, but that will happen looking at demographic trends in the country. One cannot be a successful national candidate in this country anymore and only appeal to white people. That doesn't happen. That can't happen.
And you usually get this bump after the convention, but I'm not for sure we're going to see that bump among some groups. You may get it among your core supporters, but now they're saying, well, Hillary Clinton might announce her vice presidential pick right after the Republican National Convention to steal any thunder there.
Yeah, she undoubtedly
that'd be
will.
Completely strategic.
Yeah,
on the Democratic
completely
side.
strategic, and then she has to make it's traditional to make that announcement before the convention begins in modern times, and so their convention is right after the Republican convention, so it all sets up nicely for her to capture some attention. But will that persuade people? It remains to be seen.
And I haven't heard much lately, and maybe I've not been looking in the right places, but early on when they were talking about this convention, especially the Republicans, that there the risk of violence, the risk of rioters, have you been seeing much about that? Because it's kind of gone down over the past few months from what I've seen. Maybe I'm missing it there.
No, I agree with you. I don't think there's a lot of buzz about actual violent protesters. I believe the security plan, I think Cleveland's ready. I think the security plans in both cities are going to be substantial. So I would be surprised if there was widespread violence. I don't think we're in 1968, despite the real problems facing America. I don't think that we've gotten to that level yet. 68, of course, with the violence of the Democratic National Convention. I don't anticipate seeing that, and of course, we all hope that we don't.
All right, still to come, a closer look at the Democrats. Hillary Clinton comes to the St. Louis area this past week to talk about bringing people together, and she also took time, though, to take a few more shots at Donald Trump. We'll look at the problems plaguing her candidacy, and if this is the year that a third-party candidate can really make some noise. That's straight ahead on Postscripts.